Karaage. Super simple. A good gateway into frying chicken at home. I think you'll kind of find when you do it yourself, it's not only more rewarding, but it just tastes better. That does not suck. A lot of egos in kitchens, but you just say, that doesn't suck. I love cooking, man. This is so fun. Or stuff's so fun. Hi, I'm Chris Teigland, the chef owner at Glo Noodle House. Started cooking with my mom. She was a pastry chef when I grew up. Just spent most of my time in the kitchen and one day decided I might as well get paid to do this. Today we'll be doing some classic Japanese fried foods, basically just comfort food. And let's start with some chicken karaage, just classic fried chicken. Chicken karaage, you want to traditionally use chicken thighs. You can do skin on. If you want to do whole thighs, you could leave the bone in and do that as well. But more often than not, you're going to see smaller pieces. So these are cut maybe 1-inch diameter cubes. The first thing we're going to do is make our marinade for this. We're going to start with some soy sauce. If you want it gluten-free, you could do tamari as well. Let's just make this go fast. Sesame oil is going to be really strong. It imparts a really good flavor. So we're just going to do a little bit of this. And honestly, most Japanese restaurants you go to, if you don't have a lot of Japanese food often, that's going to be a flavor that kind of sticks out to you most. Rice vinegar, just going to do a little, and a little bit of sake as well. And then the last thing we're going to do is just a little bit of ginger in there as well. Not only is this going to start seasoning the chicken, but this is also going to help it stick to the dredge, which we'll make later. You don't need much ginger. I'm sure you've seen this 1,000 times. Good trick, just use a spoon. It's going to get it off way easier than a peeler. And we don't need a ton. You could do big pieces if you don't really feel comfortable with a knife. I'm going to cut it pretty small. Really, the more surface area, I guess, the more flavor you're going to get into your marinade. And again, this is all super simple, so you don't have to be really precise with this. I feel like raw chicken you never really want to touch with your bare hands. You can, but gloves are always nice. We're going to get this in, and again, like I said, about inch or so pieces. Don't have to be precise, but you want them to be roughly the same size. Fancy chicken nuggets at the end of the day. As you can see, it's not a ton of marinade, but it's enough to cover the chicken once you get it in here. And then you want this to sit in the fridge for at least a half hour. You could go a couple of hours too, so it's not a big deal. So while that's marinating, we can go ahead and make our breading.
I have potato starch.
Oh, and potato starch, sorry. Rice flour and potato starch, I meant. And this again, you're going to do about equal parts rice flour and potato starch. You could sub cornstarch. You could use regular flour too, but there's so many gluten-free issues that we try and make so many recipes gluten-free anyway, so we don't have to adjust anything when you're busy. I mean, a lot of these recipes are traditionally gluten-free. The potato starch is going to be a little crisper than a regular AP flour. We're going to do just a little bit of salt. The chicken's going to be slightly seasoned, but this is going to finish it. You can feel free to get creative in this part. I hate any recipes where you're just dead set on doing something, but if you want to throw garlic powder in here or ginger powder, anything like that's going to be just fine. But really, that's just going to get mixed lightly. We want to make sure there's no big clumps, and then we can bread our chicken. Oh yeah, we ready. I like gloves. Trick is finding gloves that actually fit the first time. It's never easy. The next part is the fun part, so we're going to go ahead and get our breading attached. You could strain this, you can pull it right out. It's pretty simple. We're just going to grab some of these nuggets, get a little of the excess marinade off. Right in. You have your wet hand, dry hand, super simple. I mix them up all the time, and you know, it's not the end of the world. A little trick I like to do once I get the chicken in, I just squeeze to make sure it's adhering, and then you want to just shake off any excess breading. You're not looking for too much. It's kind of a thin breading, but it's going to add a really awesome texture. Comparing this to a more like southern style breading, they might dip it twice. They might go back into the marinade and back into the breading. They're looking for more of like a thick shell. And this is something too, if you really wanted and you're trying to save time, you could bread them ahead of time, and that's totally fine. There's a lot of flavor in chicken skin, and I think sometimes texturally it can be unappealing to some people, and I totally understand, but you're breading it, you're frying it, like it's going to get crispy. You're just adding more flavor. The other thing that you can do if you're doing bigger pieces, like feel free to do a whole chicken thigh. It's going to take a little longer to cook. You can make fried chicken sandwiches, use it for salads, anything that you really want. So it's just the process. And then some people I know also hate dark meat with chicken. You could do chicken breast. I don't advise it. So It's kind of like the lamest part of a chicken.
The lamest part.
Yeah, it gets dry. Like
Yeah, I know.
all the flavor is in the thigh. People ask this a lot. Being a gringo with a Japanese restaurant doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Growing up, kind of like I said, started cooking with my mom. Anyone that's worked in a kitchen knows when you're done working, the last thing you want to do is go cook again at home. And the neighborhood we grew up in Chicago was surrounded with Japanese restaurants, Korean restaurants, Chinese restaurants. And it just seemed like that was our go-to if my mom didn't want to cook. And at a super young age, I just kind of gravitated towards that. And even though it wasn't her style of food, she always really kind of leaned into it with me. I think when I was like in third grade, she bought me like a wok and sushi cookbooks and different things like that. I just think the flavors, like there's something with a lot of Asian cuisine where it just feels like your tongue got like kicked in the face pretty much, or you got kicked in the face with flavor.
Yeah.
And there's just something to it. Like I love salty, sweet. I love spicy. When I went on to work at more, I guess, like established restaurants in time, I started noticing like a lot of places that did new American food and tasting menus, they were leaning into Japanese techniques and Japanese ingredients. And I think when I started, it was like, you have to have a French background. You have to know French food. And now I feel like if you want to make it somewhere, you have to understand Japanese food really well. So from there, I went on and worked at Japanese restaurants and learned as much as I possibly could. And I think with any cuisine, you're always learning. So I'll never know everything, but I feel like the things that we do at the restaurant, we do really well. So, and fried chicken's one of them. So everybody loves fried chicken. I like gloves. First thing I'm going to do, an easy trick, if your oil is getting hot, you're having trouble keeping it at temp, just add a little more cold oil. This is going to start bringing the temp down.
Oh, good trick.
And this we're going to use a lot today anyway, so we have the oil in there. And now you can see it went from 380, it's dropping down to 330. We're almost at 325. With fried chicken, I guess it's kind of fickle in the sense a lot of people are like, high heat, I want it to get crispy, cook fast. It's going to end up burning your seasoning, your breading, before the chicken's fully cooked. So you want to start at a lower temperature. So here we're at 325. We're going to put them in and just get the chicken itself cooked. And then we're going to let the heat go back up and we're going to fry it again so that it's really crispy. When you're putting stuff in, put it away from you. People drop it this way. That's how you get burns. So want to avoid that. There's like shallow fry you could do where you're just looking to cover the food. You don't want it to overflow either, so you just want to make sure your food's covered, I guess. So you could do less, but again, we're gonna use more oil as we're cooking other recipes today. So I think this is perfect. This part will take about 2 minutes. That's gonna get the chicken fully cooked. We're gonna pull it, like I said, let the oil go up to about 350. Then it just has to go in for about a minute, and it's gonna be really, really crispy, but remain super juicy. Bubbles are good. We'll make a miso sesame buffalo sauce if you want. We do teriyaki sauce. For me personally, I just like really awesome like yuzu aioli and a little bit of ponzu, and you can just kind of float back and forth between those two. I don't know why. It's kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but like fried foods with mayonnaise is just awesome. So it's counterintuitive to a lot of things that you would learn about cooking, but it's just a classic pairing for a reason. If you're Italian, don't use olive oil. It's gonna smoke out really bad. Canola oil is fine. Sunflower oil is fine. Grapeseed, rice. I think there's like rice bran. There's a bunch of different ones. You just want to make sure that you can get it to 350 degrees without it smoking or burning your food essentially too. But a good neutral oil is gonna be perfect. Let's say we're about 30 seconds out. We don't want it to get too dark. It'll get a little darker than this on the second dredge or the second fry. But starting to look that it's crisping up first of all, that your breading isn't falling off and like there's bits all over the fry. And then you can kind of see some of them will leach like a little bit of like white liquid too, saying like we're cooked all the way through. It's something like it's hard to explain like whenever we hire a new cook and stuff what to look for with these, because if they cut it wrong or you know, you don't want to ever waste anything. If they cut it a little bigger, it's going to take a little longer to fry. There is a sense to cooking, like you can follow a recipe, but like just let yourself feel it. Like you can I don't know, it's like a sixth sense or something at some point. I mean, if it's not bubbling at all, then your oil is not hot enough. And honestly, there's always ways to cheat. So you could poke a thermometer in here, but you could also just let it rest for a minute and then cut one in half and make sure if it's still pink, then you're like, hey, it's got to fry a little longer.
Yeah.
Usually check your biggest piece. So your biggest piece, if that's not done, or if that is done, I guess, then the rest of them are done. But once it gets to about 350, we'll go ahead and fry this again really, really quick. The higher temp is going to like create more of a shell. You can kind of, here now, it's got a good like shell, but it's a little softer than what you would want to serve. So like fried foods have to crunch. Like that's half the pleasure of eating them. These things just smell good already. You think after doing it like every day for 5 years that you'd be kind of bored of it, but this is sweet. I love cooking, man. This is so fun. Or stuff's so fun. Sorry, okay. Ponzu, you can buy it at the store. We make our own at the restaurant. It's super simple. Really, you're looking soy sauce and again, gluten-free. Ta-da, yeah. So feel free to use it. If you like it, that's fine. They make different ones, but it's really just an acidic soy sauce. We use yuzu juice for ours. I really love yuzu. We're also using the yuzu juice for the yuzu aioli. It's just delicious. This is good with fried chicken. This is good with raw fish. It's good with grilled steak. You know, the possibilities with it. Anything that you would do soy sauce with that you want to cut through a little fat is more than okay. Aioli is going to be, if you're making it, you know, egg yolks, you have your oil, garlic, and then we'll make big bases and then just add different things to it. So we'll have our like aioli set. We might add like kimchi liquid from kimchis that we make to do a kimchi style aioli. I mean, you could just do lemon if you can't find yuzu as well. You might be able to just buy a yuzu aioli also. But essentially, you could just do mayonnaise and you can find yuzu juice and mix it. Yuzu, I would say, it just has this like floral taste to it that is very unique. I think it's getting extremely popular nowadays, so you're seeing it a lot more, but it's just an awesome flavor. Have our sauces, cucumbers, our chicken temp is ready, so I'm gonna throw another glove on, drop these guys back in just for a minute, and again, going away. So at this point, it's gonna get a little crispier. Just a minute. It's just, if you also really wanted to, you could do the 325 part ahead. Let them come to room temp outside and then put them in your fridge so they don't steam while they're cooling down and kind of break off the breading. But you could save them for the next day. But then you would just have to fry these maybe for another minute to make sure it's like hot all the way through. But you could take care of that part ahead of time. But since we just did this, you know, a couple minutes ago, it's gonna go really fast. We're gonna get a little more golden, and then when we take these out, you're gonna notice it's gonna have a way crisper sound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, perfect. All right. These picks up, but it's little rocks, which is good. So if you were to put these in a bowl or do anything, it should be like cha 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 cha, super loud. So French fries, fried chicken should be like rocks. So now we have these guys. You can just easily set them up here. Again, you can throw green onions on these. You could mix them with the sauce if you like, which, you know, again, it's your world. Do whatever you want. Could be an entree. You could serve this with some rice. You could serve this. We actually do a version of it in a ramen. The chicken is crispy enough that it stays crispy in a big bowl of broth. So that one we do shio with a lemon glaze style karaage. And that one's just like a ode to mom's chicken noodle soup. So nice lemon, some veggies, really, really awesome clear chicken broth, and then really, really awesome fried chicken. So that one's hard to beat. So karaage, super simple. I hope that you guys would try this one. I think it's not very intimidating, but it's also a good gateway into frying chicken at home. I think you'll kind of find when you do it yourself, it's not only more rewarding, but it just tastes better. You're not taking it from somewhere to home and it's getting soggy by the time you get there. And this will really hold its crisp for a long time. So you can, you know, like I said, serve it as an appetizer. You could do this as a whole meal. You could eat them dry. You can toss them in sauce. That's totally fine. You want to eat some now? What we say in the restaurant all the time is that does not suck. So it's hard to give someone a compliment for some reason. There's a lot of egos in kitchens, but you just say that doesn't suck.
I like that you really get the yuzu flavor,
Mhm.
and then it's kind of like, I'm not gonna say the mayo texture, but like the smoothness of the mayo.
Mhm.
But it's really the yuzu that comes forward. And you make this ponzu?
Mm-hmm. I think I prefer the ponzu, honestly, but the yuzu aioli is awesome. Yeah, the aioli, honestly, anything fried you could serve with that. And in my opinion, the yuzu aioli, like, it'll add a depth to so many things that people won't, they don't have that flavor all the time. So I think that's a really unique, I guess, aioli to serve with anything.
You're right. I like it with both, but something's like drawing me back to the ponzu.
Mhm. And again, you do the whole chicken thigh or bone out chicken thigh, yuzu aioli, cut the cucumbers into rounds. You have like the most awesome fried chicken sandwich too. So, yeah, there's a lot of uses for that recipe. Let's see how not awkward I can do all of this. So this will be fun. So
That's going to be included.
that's included. The awkwardness is free, so that's great.